So, hey, what's going on? Is beer today, beer tomorrow. Back at it, and we got Mike, official BTBT goon, co-host again. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, doing good.
And we actually have a very special guest here today with us. Sir, please introduce yourself.
Hey, it's Shane Monteiro. I'm the owner and buyer at Carmine Street Beers. My family's been running it for like about almost 5 years now.
Wow.
Yeah. I've been
awesome.
doing a half bottle shop, half bar for a little while. It's been nice.
So when did your family first get the idea of doing a bottle shop?
So my dad's actually been renting this exact spot since like the mid-90s. Before it was like a print shop back when there was a lot of like publishing houses and things on Hudson and Barrack and stuff like that. It used to work out well. Not a lot of people had internet or like printers and things like that in their offices, so they'd come down here, get some prints done. And then, that business slowly faded off and died a little bit. And in 2013, we opened Carmine Street Beers as a bottle shop.
Awesome.
Yep.
And then not a couple of years after that, you guys expanded and you added the you made it a place where people can come and hang out and drink.
Yep. Yeah. One of the problems we had when we had a bottle shop is we had 14 taps and we do growlers all the time. But like at the time, the New York State law wouldn't allow us to sample people on any of the beer. So, it's hard to have someone commit to like 64 ounces of a beer they never had, especially if they can't try it.
That's
Right.
crazy.
Yeah. So, in the interim, we just kind of started kicking around the idea of like, hey, what if we did do that? What if we started serving and like doing the whole nine? And, we started looking into it and like little baby steps here and there, kind of poking and prodding it. And then February of last year, we finally finished all the renovations, ran through all the bureaucratic checks, and we opened our taproom half.
Congratulations. That's
Thank you.
a great story.
Thank you.
Wow. Yeah. So what was the most challenging aspect of just getting that all together?
Yeah, I guess a lot of the challenge was from the fact that at that point we'd been running a bottle shop for like 3.5 years, and jumping into a bar meant that we had to keep the bottle shop open and at the same time figure out how to like reimagine the space to fit a bar with tables, chairs, run through all the bureaucratic checks, make sure we're okay with like department buildings, landmark, everybody.
Yeah.
That was a huge challenge, a big, massive undertaking.
New York State can be a pain with that.
Yeah, the state, the city, running through all those hoops was definitely some of the hardest stuff we had to do, especially because we were open and we were already like, people were still coming to us buying beer when we were doing construction. So it was a difficult time.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So now, how many taps do you guys have now? And then at any given moment, how many cans and bottles do you guys have?
So right now we have 14 taps, which we dedicate to, hard to find beer. Some of the taps do growlers when the breweries let us. As far as the stock goes, we have about 550 different beers that rotate in and out every given week, really. We try to focus a lot of our stuff on local craft, a lot of IPAs, a lot of, like interesting stouts, sours, barley wines, Try to run the whole spectrum, make everyone that comes in here, happy that they did.
Oh, wow. So now is something like what we're drinking now, this Hudson Valley passion fruit, is that available for takeaway in a growler, or is that one of those that are not?
Yeah. The guys at Hudson Valley don't really want their beers and growlers, to my understanding. And I get why. Their growler system up there is actually just gorgeous. It's probably the best way to take away beer that's like this, where it's like you want to taste every little bit of subtlety in there.
Right.
So, I totally understand where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the you notice that a lot of like the big guys that are like very buzzworthy, they don't like they're not down with the growler takeaway.
Yeah. And to another note, they're so close. It's just it's easy to go up there, kind of come down, try all their beer. They're available at a ton of different awesome beer spots all around the city.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So it's not terribly hard to find if you're looking for it, for sure.
So now you mentioned barley wines, and I'm a big barley wine fan. What are some of the barley wines you guys have right now, or at least one of the ones that you're really enjoying?
Ooh, well, it's almost May, so I have to tell you I haven't had a barley wine in about a month or so. One of the most interesting ones I got on my shelf, though, is I got a Siren Maiden from 2015.
Really?
That's one of Siren's like big claims to fame is like their original beer was a barley wine. And so every year for their anniversary, they release another Siren vintage. And every year they try to do different blends and different barrels, different things. I believe the one I have now is like 50% regular barley wine from 2015. And then blended with, I want to say, at least 8 to 10 different kinds of liquor barrels in various proportions.
Oh my God, that sounds amazing.
It's probably one of the most intense barley wines I've ever had. Definitely one of the most interesting ones I've ever gotten to carry.
Wow, that's really cool. That is very, very cool.
Oh yeah.
So now, what role do you think that Carmine Street Beers plays in the grand scheme of the craft beer scene locally, and just here in New York in general?
Sure. When we opened in 2013, the crowd that came in here was just really looking to escape the bodegas that were kind of the only place you could buy beer in the West Village. Actually, even before we opened, I think my dad had gone to one of our local bodegas. I think he paid something like $17 for a 6-pack of Corona.
Wow.
And he's a very headstrong person. I mean, he bought it and he was just like, this can't be the best way to do this.
Right.
It can't be a bodega in the village or go to the old beer room on Whole Foods on Houston.
Right.
Those were really your two big options for beer. And, the Whole Foods is great. It was an awesome spot. Mm-hmm. But you had to jump on the F just to get a beer.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that never really worked out so well for us. So, being the kind of guy he is, he was like, you know what? This printing business is not happening anymore. Let's just jump into beer. And we sort of did with kind of no experience behind us.
Wow.
It was
a big leap.
It was a big
That
leap.
is a big leap.
And I'd definitely say that 13, 14 is probably the last years you could do that. Because, nowadays the general public is so well versed, or at least better versed on craft beer than they were back in that time.
Right.
So, true to our opening, we do carry a good amount of macro beer to go.
Yeah.
And the idea behind that is we are definitely lower in price than the bodegas, so we want to grab people in here.
Right.
But we also want them to buy it in a place where they're surrounded by craft beer on every side. So it makes the choice a little harder.
You definitely are here.
Right, yeah. Maybe I'd say the macro stuff is we got maybe 15, 20 brands out of the 550 craft options that we have.
Right.
It's kind of you have to really come here and you have to really want that in order to walk away with just that.
Right. So now that's interesting. How did you guys go from, you mentioned your dad buying 6-packs of Corona, to you guys having 550 craft beer choices here? So what was that process like, and how did that evolve? It
was a journey, and even to this day, it's still an ever-evolving quest to find, what do people like, and how are their tastes changing? When we first opened, the thought of a $30 bottle of sour would have been oh my God, I can't believe we sold that. But nowadays, it's more people are at that point where they're ready to accept the higher price points on beer and kind of appreciate the quality a little bit.
Yeah.
And that's something I've seen even on my retail side. Over time, people's tastes have evolved and gotten better, and they appreciate higher quality stuff way more.
That's fair. You definitely do see that. I mean, you pay, you pay a little more because it's higher quality. It's just better beverage, better liquid.
Yeah, exactly.
It really is.
Yeah, that's something we really, really try to do because a lot of one of the big perks of running a bottle shop is you never know kind of where people are on their craft beer journey. And one thing you definitely don't want to do when they're in a store like this is to kind of turn them away because we don't carry that beer, give them some sort of reason to feel bad about the beer they're drinking.
Right.
Ultimately, a lot of the people who started in craft beer today, myself included, have started in a very low point where we're drinking Heinekens and Bud Light.
Right.
Every now and then, I think it's perfectly reasonable to go back to it.
Sure.
I think a time and a place for every beer is
whatever's at the bar.
Exactly.
Yeah. Sometimes, sometimes you're going to be in a place, and if that's all they got, then
of course
that's all
you
they
gotta
got.
deal with.
You got to drink
nothing
it.
you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that being said, because of the experience you get, like being in the craft beer world, you eventually start to seek out places with better and better beer over time.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure you also like steer these customers in the right direction of like, oh, we don't carry Bud Light or something like that, but we do have this brand of beer that is good. So I'm sure that that'll still make the customers happy.
Of course. I really do believe that after a while of you coming in here and you're buying, Bud Light, Modelo, whatever you want, after a certain time, something along the shelves of the store will catch your eye.
Definitely.
You'll be like, what is that? That looks kind of cool. Either because of branding or packaging or, maybe it says your hometown on it. Who knows?
Right.
Like the veins of where people like get their craft beer kind of knowledge from is vast. Like, so that kind of helps a lot. Like I try to steer people into things that I feel like they'll like. I don't necessarily try to pull them out of macro unless they come to me first. I don't want to like shock their system with something they are not ready for.
Yeah, definitely don't want to do that.
Sure. And I think you kind of touched on it a little bit, but how would you describe the philosophy here at Carmine's?
Well, like I said, it's still a journey. I think of it as I haven't had every beer in the world, and neither has anybody else who's walked in here. So the beer I've had that I sell here, I would like people to walk home with some of the best stuff that I carry.
Yeah.
Based on their own taste, based on things they tell me, what they liked, what they had before. I think it's more about education rather than just straight up we're selling beer or anything like that.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's completely fair. Mm-hmm. So now, what's one of the most challenging aspects, let's say, of working here? Anything that you find that you'd like to do differently? Anything that's a little challenging?
I mean, it's really only as far as challenging as it is like hanging out and drinking beer. I guess one of the big parts of it is that in a way that like local breweries are like putting out new beer every week. And part of the challenge is not only keeping up, but kind of almost benchmarking them in the sense that like I don't want to like go off of my previous experience. I will be the first person to tell my customers I haven't had this beer. I've had stuff from that brewery and it was awesome, but I haven't had that beer. And like that's one of the big challenges is trying enough beer to like really give my customers like an educated opinion on what it is.
And when so many come out every week, it's so hard to get
Exactly. I've actually started taking to like doing little splitsies with like some of my regulars, like
nice.
When they're around and they're drinking some beers, I'll be like, hey, like I got this can, we got it into the day, why don't we split it and try it and just talk about it. Because in my estimation, their opinion is just as valid as mine. Like as for all the beer I've had, they're the ones buying it at the end of the day, right?
Sure.
So it's like, I got to know where it's all coming from.
Absolutely.
In a way.
And so on the flip side, what's the most rewarding aspect of, I think I know the answer. I mean, there's 550 reasons why, but...
No, that's definitely up there. I mean, trying out, getting the ability to sample some of the best beers available to the New York market is absolutely a privilege. But even beyond that, just having a person come back in and be like, hey, that IPA you recommended to me last week was outstanding. It was one of the best beers I've had. And like that feeling is like really great. Or, like just seeing positive reviews on like, Yelp, Beer Advocate, Rate Beer, wherever it is. And just seeing my name mentioned. That is awesome. It makes like the long hours and like kind of like the tediousness of working in a beer place like really, really worthwhile. It's very, very like personally rewarding, I feel.
I bet. That's a good feeling.
Yeah.
Right on. And so speaking of the hours, so what are your hours of operation here?
So the store is open every day from 11:30 to 10, except for Sunday, which is noon to 8.
Okay.
I'm pretty much here Monday through Saturday. So yeah,
you got a complete
all
schedule.
The time. Yeah,
nice.
Almost.
All right. And do you guys host events here as well?
We do. I don't have like a whole lot of room in here, so I try to keep my events to things where I feel like people will be really, really into whatever it is they're coming to. It's got to be something creative or like like maybe I have a habit of my dad would say a bad habit of cellaring and saving beers over long periods of time. So every time I find have a set of something, I try to throw it on tap and do a cool little event, because it would be kind of hard to find those beers in tandem anywhere else.
Right.
Yeah,
It's a good idea.
Yeah, it's really fun to see people come down, and like I said, the purpose is education. So one of the events I did last year, to the beginning of this year, was a barrel tasting, where I did Ballast Point's High West Victory at Sea on tap, and I had the two other beers on were Lagunitas High West and Willet Lagunitas. So it was one of those really cool events where you got to really learn what barrels do to beer and what base stouts do to beers, because you had two beers with the same barrel and two beers with the same base. And it was a lot of fun to just kind of watch people go oh yeah, I see where they were going with this one or that one.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So what are the breweries or what are the styles that's really kind of getting you excited these days?
For me, I think lately the weather's turned. It's a lot nicer in New York. I've been on a very, very long Saison kick since I had two Jester King bottles in a row, back to back, one night, and it just put me on this kick, and now I'm drinking all sorts of Saisons.
Cannot go wrong with a well-made Saison.
No, yeah, it's I find it's very, very pleasing to drink a Saison on a spring day almost, a little nice warm breeze in the air, and a Saison just fits. It's not too heavy, it's not too light.
Yeah,
it gives you a good amount of body and flavor. It really works.
Absolutely. And now with the temperatures getting a little warmer, a little hotter, I'm sure, I think you're going to get a lot of people drinking those sours. Sours are they're refreshing on a hot day.
That is definitely true. Yeah. We've actually seen a lot more people jumping towards Gozas, Berliner Weisses, some really light, low ABV sours, but really, really good tartness, sometimes with fruit in it. All sorts of interesting beer like that. Been seeing do a little better because, sours just fit hot weather. They're really well.
Yeah.
Just like lemonade, really.
Yeah. So now, what's something the audience may not know about Carmine's, but they should know?
That's a really good question. I know we kind of got popular on our loose beers, but we really do a bunch of 6-packs and 4-packs that are competitively priced. We do have different pricing structures, and that's kind of led to some sort of... I've seen some bad reviews on us just for that. Right. But we always charge more for loosies than 4-packs or 6-packs.
Right.
And we do offer a discount for mixed 6-packs and things like that. But I feel like a lot of people just take it when they ask for a price and they go, oh, that's a lot for a single can, imagine 6. And I don't know. That's just something I want to put out there.
Sure.
Because it's been a normal day-to-day kind of thing for me for the last, I don't know. When did we do that? Maybe 2-3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you guys do. So you'll sell Lucy cans, and then you'll sell, and then can people have the option to mix and match?
Yeah.
So which is rare. For at least what I've experienced in New York.
Yeah, that's also a kind of a difficult thing to really put down because we have 500. Everything gets essentially 2 prices, so it could cause a lot of hell on a consumer side. But
right.
Yeah, but on our side, I don't think I would ever change that. Just walking into a store and having the power to go, okay, I want this one out of the 550 is huge.
Right.
I don't know, because a lot of places I've seen do something you can mix anything on the shelf and then you get a deal on it or whatever. It's a fixed price. But beer, throughout all my experience, has never been try it because it's this price. That's not the kind of thing I want to do.
Right.
I want people to try the high end, and I want people to try the low end, and I want to try everything in between.
Right.
And in order to do that, we have to lay out the store the way we do. Otherwise it'd be impossible.
Right. So now, these days, what do you see? I know we talk about certain styles that are really popular, but typically amongst your customers, what would you say the styles, the most often go-to styles?
Oh yeah. By a large margin, it's probably IPAs.
Okay.
it's probably local rotational IPAs that do the best, no matter what. It's kind of a tough category to beat because, I don't think in the last 5 years that we've been open, there's never been a better time to drink beer because you can try the IPA that you get from me, and we're off in a corner of probably super west of Manhattan. And it's kind of like one of those things where you've never been able to kind of go grab the can on my shelf and then go back to Brooklyn, Queens, and be like, "Wow, this is great. I'm gonna go visit that brewery there." And it's there. It's in the 5 boroughs. You can grab a subway and get there.
Right.
And that's been rare. It's probably the first time in New York City in a long time you've been able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, I think the access is better than it's ever been.
Yeah, and it's trendier too, actually. I feel like people are more okay with spending time at a brewery than they ever were, especially New York. Before it used to be we got to go spend our time at the trendiest, coolest bar, and now it's the brewery is just as good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think people go to the different experiences too, and I think some of the breweries, we've talked about this on our shows in the past, they're trying to, they have other earlier hours. They're trying, they're being, they're pet friendly, they're family friendly, and they're kind of, makes it a whole kind of event. You could spend spend a good chunk of a day there.
Yeah, a lot of breweries actually allow you to rent them out too, which is even it's even better. You can host really, really big life events at breweries now.
Yeah.
I mean, they got all this space. They might as well do something.
Yeah,
with it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, at 5 Boroughs, they when we did a show, they were actually they appeared on our show last week at the event at the Well. But when we did a show at their location, I think they even mentioned they had a wedding reception there. So,
really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I'm not misquoting it. But
I think you're right.
I mean, they got a huge space. I think it is cool. I think you are seeing breweries just becoming more of just part of people's lives. Really.
Yeah.
And that's a good thing.
Definitely nice.
Most definitely.
That's a really good thing. So now, what's in store for the future of Carmine's?
Well, that we're not really sure of. We're just still getting our legs together after converting from the bar to this, and from retail to the bar. I don't know. That's really more or less up to the future of beer. I think it's tied. I mean, if you told me a few years ago, you're gonna just be selling and pushing IPA cans in 16-ounce format, I'd been like, who's buying them?
Yeah.
Right? It's
turns out everybody now.
Yeah, it's incredibly difficult to predict how beer is going to change and evolve over the next few years. I mean, I've seen one of the big ones that I've seen is Transmitter.
Yeah.
Moving into cans and having can-conditioned cans is amazing to me. It's I would have never thought that anyone would have even attempted to do so.
Right.
Just because of the level of difficulty that it takes to put live yeast in cans and not have it explode.
Right. That's
phenomenal. A couple years ago, I don't even think anyone would even bother to attempt doing that. But just because of cans being the more volume level thing, people are moving towards it. And by default, we have to also join them.
There you go.
Well, where there's a will, there's a way, right? I mean, there's demand, and they had to do it, and it is pretty fascinating that they did it. And they make great beers.
Yeah. Transmitter's beers are awesome.
Yeah. So now, I guess I gotta ask, going back to the IPA and or double IPA, what's some of your favorite that you've been drinking on as of late?
Yeah. Actually, I just had a really great IPA from Interborough, made with Arcane's hop oil. It's called Intoxicated Demons.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one's pretty amazing. The
shout out
on the finish is unreal.
Shout out to Interborough. Love what those guys are doing.
Yeah, they're great. They're really great.
And now, if people want to find out more about Carmine's or your selection of what you got going on, what's the best way to do that?
If you're looking for us for a tap list, it's always on Untappd and it's live. So if you see it on Untappd, we are pouring it at that moment. The best way to find out about our retail stuff, we used to use beer menus, but having a list of 550 beers didn't really do anything for anyone.
Right.
So we've done Instagram can releases that are also put on Facebook and Twitter. I think those are probably the best way to find out what's new and exciting in our stock. and Untapped for what's on tap.
And what's your handles on those? What's your usernames?
Just at Carmine Street Beers on all.
On all of them?
Nice.
Yep.
Very, very nice. So now, we touched on a few things, but is there anything that we didn't get to that we should be talking about Carmine's and what you guys are doing here?
Not a whole lot, actually. I think we keep a pretty friendly, open atmosphere here. So a lot of our regulars, if anyone has any questions or things, concerns, like I'm almost always at this store. So just seek out Shane, and I can make any of those answers happen.
There you go. You heard it here.
Yeah.
Seek out Shane. He can make it happen.
Nice.
Love to hear that. Mike, you have any parting questions or comments for our guest?
No, I really like what you're doing here. I really like the like how you said, once you enter, you really get hit with a bunch of beer, and that is a huge fact.
Yeah.
There's nothing but beer behind me, and it's great. I think that's a great way to keep a bottle room in a tap room.
Great, thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah, and thanks so much for hosting Beer Today, Beer Tomorrow. I really appreciate it. And for you guys listening, come down to Carmine Shop, man. Got a lot of choices. You can definitely find something that you will enjoy here. Probably a lot more than just one thing. But
Right.
choices all over the walls. So good stuff. Thanks, man. Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers.